But years later, I did find out there was some going on.
One of the most iconic sitcoms that comes to mind is the hit show Three's Company.
$30,000 an episode. That was the staggering amount one star was making, but it wasn't enough. When a demand for $150,000 hit the producers' desks, it set off a chain reaction that would ultimately end Three's Company. This beloved sitcom, famous for its lighthearted chaos, was hiding a dark secret of jealousy and bitter negotiations. We're exposing the real reason the show was taken off the air, tracing it all back to a single moment of conflict that destroyed the cast's chemistry and sent the show spiraling toward its dramatic and unforgettable conclusion. The unlikely hit. Three's Company didn't begin as an American original. You see, its roots trace back across the Atlantic to a cheeky British sitcom called Man About the House, which aired from 1973 to 1976. The premise was daring for its time, a young man sharing a London flat with two single women. It was edgy, it was funny, and it was a massive hit in the UK. When American television producers got a look at it, they saw pure gold. But what they overlooked was just how hard it would be to sell the idea to a more conservative American audience. Bringing the concept to the United States was, to put it mildly, a massive headache. The big networks, especially ABC, were incredibly nervous. The idea of an unmarried man and two women living together, even platonically, was considered way too risque for prime time. In fact, the project was almost dead on arrival. The producers had to shoot not one, but two failed pilot episodes before the network reluctantly gave them a shot. ABC was so unsure that it only ordered a tiny 6-episode run for the first season in January 1977, treating it as a cautious mid-season experiment they fully expected to fail. The show's creators, Don Nichol, Michael Ross, and Bernard West, knew they needed a clever workaround to make the living situation acceptable. This is where the genius twist came in. At the heart of the show was Jack Tripper, a charming culinary student played by the incredibly gifted John Ritter. After crashing a party and waking up in the bathtub of Janet Wood and Chrissy Snow, he desperately needs a place to live. The girls agree, but their snoopy, old-fashioned landlord, Mr. Roper, is dead set against any co-ed shenanigans. So, to keep a roof over his head, Jack blurts out a lie. He pretends to be gay. This single, brilliant fib became the engine for the entire series, setting the stage for 8 seasons of misunderstandings, close calls, and pure comedic chaos. The most shocking fact is, this central plot point allowed the show to explore suggestive themes under the guise of innocent mix-ups. When Three's Company finally premiered on March 15, 1977, nobody expected what happened next. It was an absolute, out-of-the-gate smash hit. Audiences were instantly hooked. The chemistry between John Ritter, Joyce DeWitt as the sensible Janet, and Suzanne Summers as the bubbly Chrissy was electric. Ritter's unmatched talent for physical comedy, tripping over couches, getting into tangled situations, and making panicked faces, had viewers in stitches every single week. People weren't just watching a show, they were hanging out with 3 friends they felt they knew. What many overlooked at the time was how perfectly the show captured the spirit of the late 70s. It was a period of cultural change, and the show's unconventional living arrangement, while played for laughs, mirrored a society that was slowly becoming more open-minded. Despite the initial fears from network executives, Three's Company soared in the ratings, quickly becoming one of ABC's biggest and most profitable shows. It proved that audiences were ready for something new, something a little daring, and a whole lot of funny. What started as a risky British adaptation had become a true American cultural phenomenon. But the perfect on-screen chemistry was hiding a growing tension behind the scenes, pushing the boundaries. So what was the secret sauce that made Three's Company an unstoppable force in television? It wasn't just one thing, but a perfect storm of brilliant physical comedy, witty writing, and a cast whose on-screen magic was simply undeniable. From 1977 to 1984, the show was a ratings juggernaut, a go-to for anyone looking to escape and just have a good laugh. Many people are crazy about the show even today, and you can see this everywhere in reruns and streaming services. At the center of it all was John Ritter as Jack Tripper. Ritter wasn't just an actor, he was a comedic whirlwind. His gift for physical comedy was legendary, often compared to icons like Lucille Ball. He didn't just deliver a line, he threw his entire body into every scene. Whether he was tumbling over furniture to hide from Mr. Roper or desperately trying to explain an absurd misunderstanding, Ritter's boundless energy was the show's heartbeat. The thing nobody tells you is that much of his physical comedy was improvised on the spot, a testament to his natural genius. His co-stars often had to suppress genuine laughter on camera just to get through a scene with him. But even a star as bright as Ritter needs a strong supporting cast, and Three's Company had one of the best. Suzanne Summers played Chrissy Snow, the quintessential bubbly blonde whose innocent misunderstandings and ditzy remarks provided endless comedic fodder. Yet Summers brought a genuine warmth to the role that made Chrissy more than just a stereotype. She was lovable and sweet, and her comedic timing was impeccable. Rounding out the trio was Joyce DeWitt as Janet Wood, the practical, level-headed brunette who served as the group's anchor. Janet's sharp wit and grounded perspective were the perfect foil to Jack's panic and Chrissy's naivete. Together, their chemistry was lightning in a bottle. The humor itself was a product of its time, clever, cheeky, and constantly pushing the envelope. The central premise of Jack faking his orientation was used to poke fun at societal prejudices, adding a layer of subtle social commentary beneath the slapstick. The scripts were packed with double entendres and suggestive situations that would fly right over kids' heads but have adults howling. However, not everyone was a fan. Critics at the time often dismissed the show as jiggle TV, pointing to its reliance on innuendo and the sometimes ditzy portrayal of its female characters. Some feminist groups argued that the character of Chrissy Snow reinforced outdated stereotypes of women. But for millions of fans, Chrissy's innocence was part of her charm, and the show's farcical style was pure entertainment. It followed in the grand tradition of classic comedies like I Love Lucy, using recurring gags and absurd scenarios to create a world where laughter was the only thing that mattered. This magical combination of talent and timing made the show a top 10 hit for years. But as its popularity exploded, so did the egos and ambitions behind the curtain. The harmony that looked so effortless on screen was about to be shattered by a single explosive demand. The fight that would break the trio apart was about to begin. The end of Chrissy. The journey of Suzanne Summers on Three's Company is a Hollywood legend, a roller coaster ride from beloved star to controversial outcast. Her character, Chrissy Snow, was an audience favorite. With her wide-eyed innocence and perfect comedic timing, she became a household name almost overnight. But as her star power grew, so did her desire for something more, respect, and a salary that reflected her importance to the show's massive success. What happened next remains one of the most talked-about contract disputes in television history. By the time the show reached its 5th season, it was an absolute ratings monster, and the cracks behind the scenes began to show. Suzanne Summers was earning $30,000 per episode. While that was a huge amount of money at the time, it paled in comparison to what her male co-star John Ritter was making. Sources say Ritter was pulling in a salary of around $150,000 per episode. Frustrated by this massive pay gap, Summers and her husband manager, Alan Hamill, decided to play hardball. They demanded a raise to match Ritter's salary, plus an unprecedented 10% of the show's profits. To put it mildly, the producers and the network, ABC, were stunned and furious. In that era, such a demand from a female co-star on an ensemble show was simply unheard of. They saw it not as a request for pay equity, but as a sign of greed. Negotiations quickly turned hostile. Instead of coming to the table, the network decided to make an example of her. The most shocking fact is how swiftly they moved to sideline her character. The war was on, and it played out in a truly bizarre and awkward way on screen. Instead of sharing scenes with her co-stars, Chrissy Snow was suddenly relegated to brief, 60-second phone call segments tacked onto the end of episodes. Summers would film her parts alone on a separate soundstage, literally phoning in her performance because she was no longer welcome on the main set. It was the network's way of slowly phasing her out while they searched for a replacement. For the viewers at home, it was jarring and obvious. The effortless chemistry of the trio was gone, replaced by strange, disconnected scenes. By the end of the season, Suzanne Summers was officially fired from the show she had helped build into a phenomenon. The fallout was immediate and relentless. The media painted Summers as greedy and difficult, a reputation that would follow her for years. Her relationships with her co-stars were completely fractured. Joyce DeWitt, who reportedly felt Summers had betrayed the family dynamic of the show, was deeply hurt. The two women would not speak to each other for over 30 years, a painful silence that underscored the bitterness of the split. While the show scrambled to replace Chrissy, first with her clumsy cousin Cindy, Jenna Lee Harrison, and later with nurse Terry Alden, Priscilla Barnes, fans agreed that the original magic was gone forever. The show survived, but it was wounded. The laughter continued, but the harmony was broken, and the stage was set for the show's eventual decline. But the departure of Chrissy was only the beginning of the end. The spin-off that wasn't. Even for a television giant like Three's Company, no star can shine forever. After Suzanne Summers' dramatic exit, the show that had once seemed invincible began a slow but undeniable decline. The departure of a main character is always a huge blow, but losing Chrissy Snow felt different. It wasn't just a casting change. It was the loss of a crucial piece of the show's comedic soul. The magic of the original trio was a delicate balance, and without it, the whole structure started to feel wobbly. Producers tried their best to fill the void. First came Jenna Lee Harrison as Cindy Snow, Chrissy's clumsy cousin, whose humor was almost entirely based on slapstick. When that didn't fully click with audiences, Priscilla Barnes was brought in as Terry Alden, a sharp and intelligent nurse. While both actresses were talented, they faced an impossible task, recreating the lightning-in-a-bottle chemistry that had made the show a hit. Many loyal viewers felt the dynamic was forced, a puzzle with pieces that just didn't quite fit. The heart of the show, John Ritter, did his best to hold everything together, but even his comedic genius couldn't completely hide the strain. By the early 1980s, the television landscape was changing. The lighthearted, innuendo-driven humor of Three's Company started to feel dated as newer, flashier shows emerged. The biggest new threat was The A-Team, an action-packed thrill ride that premiered in 1983 and became an instant ratings juggernaut. Suddenly, a sitcom about roommate misunderstandings was competing with helicopters and explosions, and it began to lose a significant chunk of its audience. After 7 seasons of non-stop hijinks, the creative well was also running dry. There are only so many times Jack can be caught in a compromising position before the gag starts to feel repetitive. By its 8th and final season, the show was running on fumes. The departure of Suzanne Summers years earlier had fractured the original trio's lightning-in-a-bottle chemistry. While Jenna Lee Harrison's Cindy and Priscilla Barnes's Terry did their best to fill the void, the thing is, the magic never fully returned. The show's very premise, a man pretending to be gay to live platonically with 2 women, was wearing thin after nearly a decade on air. The jokes felt recycled, the situations less believable, and the energy was undeniably fading. When the series finale aired on September 18, 1984, it felt less like a grand farewell and more like a rushed goodbye. To put it mildly, the final episode functioned as a backdoor pilot for a different show altogether. In a whirlwind half-hour, Jack Tripper proposed to his new girlfriend, Vicky, while Janet, the grounded heart of the group, got married to Philip, a man viewers had only met a handful of times. For a show that had spent years building its stories around the central trio's friendship, this abrupt conclusion left many fans feeling deeply unsatisfied and cheated. Janet was suddenly paired off with a virtual stranger in a move that felt dismissive of her entire character arc. The producers, however, weren't ready to let go of Jack Tripper just yet. They immediately launched the spin-off called Three's a Crowd, which picked up right where the finale left off. The new series followed Jack and Vicky as they moved in together next door to her disapproving father. But what many overlooked was that the entire formula had been broken. Three's Company gave us years of laughter, but behind the scenes, it was a lesson in ambition and conflict. Was Suzanne Summers a pioneer fighting for equal pay, or was her demand the move that ultimately brought down a television giant? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.